Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you. So I'm going to tell y'all a little story, and then y'all tell me if y'all have had situations like this, right? So I could probably think of 100 of these stories, but the one that popped in my head first is when I used to work at group homes. So whenever it was like something really bad going on, they would be like, Miss Arvette, we need you to come to the group home or whatever. And so like when they were describing the situation that's going on, I'm like saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, you know. So I'll get there. Like I remember one time they were like, one of the kids has a gun, and you know, and he's doing this and that and the other or whatever. We need you here. And I'm thinking, what? So I can get shot or whatever. So anyway, I go on over, and instantly, as soon as I looked at him, he just handed me the gun, and he was just like, here, take it. Ah, and then he just started crying, right? And so it wasn't a funny situation at the time, but it was good for me because I was like, phew, because I didn't know what to do, right, or whatever. But I noticed that every time those situations would come up, I never had to figure out what to do. Like it would just magically resolve itself. And so I'm gonna leave at a point right there and see, have y'all had situations like that?
Yes. I think as a man, you're gonna be caught in a situation where you're the man there, or you're the man there. So it's like, well, what you gonna do? It's like, well, I ain't ready to not figure this out with all these people relying on me. So yeah, a lot of times like that is when for me it'll just work out somehow. And I'd be like, whew.
Like, thank you. Yeah, no, for me, I think I shared with y'all before that this has happened like multiple times in my life, and like in things that people would call traumatic, but I have no real recollection of what even happened in them, because for me it was just all I had to do was just continue to be myself, and everything was just working out. Like the clearest example I have is when I was going to drop off LJ and Yana. It was like one summer, I had just got my car. A lady ended up running a red light and T-boning us or whatever. And so like as like there was oncoming traffic on the other side, but like I don't know, like I don't remember thinking anything. I just remember turning the wheel slightly, and next thing I know, the car's right there on the island. All we hit is like a little tree, avoid any damage, nobody's hurt. And it's like, thank you, because I wasn't trying to have to figure out how to explain how I got in this car accident. First of all, like the first thing I could do, my very first words were, you wrecked my car, lady, because I could not explain to my mom or my dad how I just got this car a few months ago and it's gone. Like I got nothing to do with this. This car is gone. So I'm so glad that situation kind of just resolved itself. Everybody was just good.
I think I had one real recent, matter of fact. I took a trip to Texas, and I drove from Richmond to Texas. On my way back, man, sit back, and I stopped in South Carolina, right? Went to the gas station, filled up the truck. Before I hit the road, I noticed that the tire in the back was going flat. So I said, all right, cool. Put some air in the tire before I hit the road. Go put some air in the tire. The whole plug came out the tire. So my tire started to go flat. So I'm sitting back, I'm nervous now because I'm like, all right, I know I got a spare tire, but the problem with that spare tire, it's already flat. So then I'm sitting back thinking, and it's 3:00 in the morning. So I'm in the middle of no man land, in the country at a gas station. And I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, so what you gonna do, Steve? What you gonna do? So I said, all right, I'm gonna take this tire off. I'm gonna put some air in this tire, right? And then I'm gonna figure out, I'm gonna find like somewhere close by, like a tire, make it to a tire place so I can just get a tire, right? So I did that, right? Put the tire on, put some air in it, put some fixer flat in it, hit the road, right? Get on the highway. As soon as I get on the highway, I'm like, so now I ain't got no tire. I can't go nowhere. So I'm sitting back thinking to myself, I said, all right, well, now you ain't got no choice. So what you gonna do? So luckily, talked to my good friend. And I sat back and I just waited it out, but I had to wait till 8:30 in the morning for the tire place to open up. I had to call an Uber to take me over to the tire place. The tow truck came, but the tow truck wouldn't allow me to ride with him, because of COVID and so forth. So I'm like, man, but yes. Long story short, I understand. Yes.
So, what did you think? And I don't know if I would call that one of these examples. Would y'all call this an example?
Is it?
Almost.
Yeah, it could be. It depends on how you look at it. But what do y'all think came in? What do you think took over to make these situations work out without any input from you?
I would say probably just stepping into a space in the space of my higher self, probably. So like removing the worry and the fear and those things, and just
Now, did you consciously do that?
No, but I removed those things, like the worry and the fear, and just was like, all right, let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's I think if you would ask me back then, I would have said, "Oh, it was an angel watching over me," or "I had angels watching over me." I think now it's kind of very similar to what he just said. I think for some reason, in that moment, no, not even for some reason, for a very clear reason, in that moment, I didn't have to think, so I was able to just be nothing but my higher self. So the best possible outcome came because I wasn't thinking about a plan, or a process of how to do it, or what do I need to do. It was just go.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. I used to watch this show called I Shouldn't Be Alive. And so the premise of the show is that they're in this situation, and what would always happen is, let's just say if it was their tire went flat. So their tire went flat, and then they try to do something, then of course the other tire would go flat, and then they try to do something, and then the car explode. It was always like, it would just be this snowball effect of all these things that would keep going wrong, and they would end up in situations, depending on the story, they might be out somewhere stranded for 2 weeks, or they might be stranded on the side of a cold mountain for 3 and 4 days and stuff. And so it's just a point where they just give up, right? And they're just like, you know what, I just give up, because they just keep trying, everything fails and it gets worse. And then every single time in these stories, when they would give up, that's when their help would come. And I was always like, wow, why is that the pattern? Every time once they give up, the help will come. And I said, so if I ever get stranded, I'm gonna just give up. I'm gonna just give up or whatever, instead of trying. But what you say makes so much sense, because with the situation, the specific one I just told you, and most of the ones that I could tell you, I would have no idea what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. I wouldn't be able to think it through. Like, I don't know what to do. And in those moments, something else would just take over, and it would just guide me perfectly. And I remember one time hearing this story about this man who he jumped on the subway on the tracks because someone had fallen onto the tracks. And then they were like, I guess they were maybe having a seizure, or maybe they had fainted. I can't remember, but they had fallen on the tracks, and then the sub is coming. And so it's no way he can get the person off the track. So he jumps down there with them and covers them with his body. So this, I guess the subway with the tires would be on the rails. So he's got them in between the rails, right? And so the train is basically going to pass over them. But if the person moves, they gone, right? And so he just jumps on and he does that. And he ends up saving the person. And he, along with everybody that does these heroic things, when you're like, wow, how did you know to do that? It's just like, I don't know. I didn't think. I just jumped. I just acted or whatever. And then, of course, they're always like, I'm no hero. I just did what anybody else would do. You're like, no. Anybody else wouldn't have did that. You was the only one that jumped down there or whatever. But you know, I would be like, when I heard it, I was just like, what is that allows people to do that? And I really do think it's exactly what you said. It's not thinking. It's almost like giving up, trying to make stuff happen, trying to fix it, trying to figure it out, and you just let your, I guess, higher guidance do it.
The saying in my head that keeps coming up as you're talking is "let go and let God." Like that reminds me so much of that saying. Like just let go and let Him handle it.
Yeah. But also, I think, wouldn't it be great if we're in that space more frequently? And that we have the conscious ability to be there. And so if we can start aligning ourselves up to the frequency of God, to the frequency of divinity, to the frequency of our higher self, then we're spending more time in that space, being more like what God is.
I think that would be amazing, because it's sort of, when you think about it, it is amazing when those type of moments pop up in your life and just you really don't know what to do, and then all of a sudden you don't think about what you're gonna do, you just let it go, and then magically all of a sudden things just start to flow. But it's more of, I think, we put ourselves in the space of thinking, how can I fix? They think more of the solution. You know, what can I do to fix the problem, instead of letting that go. And like Teron was saying, just let it flow.
Yeah, it's like we wait until our backs are against the walls to tap into these things, and when it's already here all the time. And so I used to ask myself that, like, you know, because somebody had told me, like, yo, how you always come out like unscathed from these things, and I'm like, I don't know, like, you know. And I used to ask myself, like, well, why can I only do that when it's something negatively, somehow I appear to be negative happening to me, and yeah, I think we should be able to tap into that at all times, and be able to use that with all parts of our life, and not just when things are going bad.
Right.
Yeah, and another thing too, I was thinking about too, as we were having this conversation, as you told the story about the subway, you like, you know, everybody, they're like, you know, I just did what anybody would do. You're like, I don't know. I genuinely do think most people would do those actions, because I feel like every time I've been in those situations too, there's no thinking behind it. You just go. So I think, no, not even I think, it just all come to me just now. I know for a fact that everybody would do the same thing, because if we're all connected to the same thing, and we all have the same qualities in us, and we're all connected to the source together, then there's nothing that I can do that you can't as well. So like, I think if we're facing those situations, I think most people do tend to jump versus like stop and wait and overthink. I think when our higher self feels its presence is truly, truly needed, it just bursts out of you every time. I don't think it's I think in those moments, that's something we can't control. I do think it's something we can't control, and we should start to focus more on it. But I think we spend too much time feeling like, oh, well, you spend too much time in the logical, honestly. And so things that seem impossible are impossible to you because you won't allow yourself to see the possibility of it.
Yeah, I'll have to give that some thought because I don't know that everybody would do that. And I had included that story in my book about the guy on the train, on the subway. And at that time, because I didn't find out until after I wrote my book. Like, my book hadn't been published yet, but I had went to see my uncle. And so he was just telling me these stories about my dad. And he was like, that my dad, like in the Vietnam War, he had received like the Purple Heart Award or something, which I knew that, but I never knew why. And so, because my dad would never talk about it, it was like if you asked him about it, he would kind of shut down and kind of cry and stuff like that. But what happened was, he was a medic, so what they would do, they would go to where the injured people were, get them, try to help them or whatever, and kind of put them on the chopper and take off. Well, a lot of times they're still behind enemy line, so they had landed the chopper. They're trying to collect the people who are still alive, because they didn't have time to collect everyone because they were behind enemy lines. So they're trying to collect everyone who's alive, and so then the bombing and everything starts, and so the person who's flying the helicopter is like, let's go, we gotta go. And so they hop in, they think they got everyone who's still alive, and they take off. So my dad looks down and says, I see somebody moving, you gotta land. And so the person is like, oh no, we getting the heck out of Dodge. So my dad jumps off of the chopper. He jumps off of the helicopter because they can't leave him. So he jumps off, and then he's able to save that person and force the chopper to land.
It's crazy. I seen that in the movie. And your dad.
Say that again.
I seen it showed that in the movie, and I seen it. and you sharing that story. It's crazy. Movie We Were Soldiers.
Okay.
Mel Gibson.
Nice. So yeah. So chopper dude won't gonna stop.
He said that.
He was like, yeah.
Pilot like, no, we're getting the heck out of Dodge. But that's neither here nor there. Like, I think, I guess the point of the conversation really is that we can call this into effect on a regular, everyday basis in our lives. But like Rodney was saying, a lot of times, one, we don't call it into effect ever. We wait for it to spring forth. Or two, we'll call it into effect when our back is against the wall. But we can literally tap into this higher consciousness, this higher power, to this divinity at any time and at all times. If we can, ideally we would stay aligned. We would get aligned and stay there. And so when we're aligned with our higher self, we're moving from that space. But a lot of times we give our attention to what's around us, our current reality, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then when you need to get back in, you can get back in just like that. And I really came to conscious awareness of that. Like, a lot of times you know things intellectually, but you've never done it. But I think it was last summer, I literally had an experience where I was just kind of like feeling like I was crazy, like trying to deal with another person. And so I ended up, like, I kept saying, well, how do I deal with this situation? And so I can't remember how it came to me, but it came to me, I probably heard it in a teaching somewhere, but they're like, send your energy up and out and then just shine, right? And so that's what I did in the midst of all the craziness. I just saw myself shooting my energy up, taller than the tallest trees, wider than the widest horizon, and brighter than the brightest sun. And so I saw myself do that, and I held that. And from that space, me being in that space, the whole situation just resolved itself. And so I'll do that now. You know, when things are going crazy, I'll just and just shine, and then the situation resolves itself.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, I know for me it's like you said, we don't tap into that on an everyday basis because I think it has something to do with us being comfortable. And like when our backs against the wall now, like we're uncomfortable, you know. So I think it's that like we can get comfortable with what we have going on in the life we have, you know, from our view, and can just stay there like, okay, I know this and I'm good with this and I'm okay with this, but I know I can tap into something else and be greater or whatever, but I'm comfortable with this, and I think that has a lot to do with not using it. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we're not comfortable though.
Right.
You know, like a lot of times we're in a place of struggle, a place of stress. You know, we don't know how we're going to make ends meet. We don't know, like, we can't get our teenager to act right. Our relationship is going crazy. They treating us bad at the job. You know, our health is awry.
Right.
So it's like all these things and then we try to figure out how to deal with this. And then we keep going around the same circle because we keep looking at the problem, talking about the problem, vibrating on the level of the problem, and then it continues to be a problem. But we can just as easily in that moment just stop, remember our own divinity, shoot our energy up and out and shine, vibrate on a different level. We can change our vibration at any time. Now I know sometimes when, you know, your back is against the wall or whatever, when you've been, you know, like you're in the middle of anger, it's hard to be like, okay, let me let me vibrate higher. You know, I know that's a hard task, a hard ask or whatever, but I think we were talking about it last week or the week before, like just how you can just remove yourself from that situation, take a break from it, and when you can take a break in those moments, then do it, you know.
And thinking about what you said, I mean, I had numerous of times as to where I can be vibrating super high, and I'm vibrating super high, and I'm totally aware, right? But then I go, it's like a tug of war. It's the back and forth. Like I'm aware of vibrating high, but then all of a sudden here come life, you know, the job and bills and all of those things come into play, and I'm still trying to vibrate high, but then it's like, hold up, let me bring you back down just a little bit. So it's always the tug of war, but I realize, you know, just continue to stay up here and don't worry. You know, take away the worry, and just be. just be. And like today, it's still, I have my moments, the tug of war I go through, but then I just had to stop and just remind myself, like, hey, we up here. We not down here.
So I guess basically this topic is like just summoning the best of who you are more often. So thank y'all for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for joining us as well. And we look forward to chit-chatting with you again next week. Until then, this is Arvette.
This is Steve.
Teron.
Rodney.
Bye, y'all.